Welcome to Warcraft 3 Reforged.
Hey, come on.
Welcome, everyone. We are members here at Blizzcon, and for the people at home, we have gathered here today to celebrate you guys, and our love for one of the most legendary, iconic, and genre-defining games of all time. Warcraft 3 is getting a remaster. As one of the best real-time strategy games ever, it is my extreme pleasure to host this game's remastering, and I'm joined by a stellar cast. Please allow me to introduce them to you. They're the Blizzard Classic Games team. We've got Jay Patel, Matt Morris, Brian Sousa, Rob Breidenbecker, and Pete Stillwell.
Howdy.
So a question on everyone's mind must be, what led us to this remastering of Warcraft 3? And Rob, what led you to it?
It's Warcraft, right? Like we started Classic with this idea that we have to preserve these games. We cannot break the fun. We want to extend it to generations to come. And so we cut our teeth on StarCraft, and we learned a lot with StarCraft Remastered. And so it was a natural progression to move from StarCraft into Warcraft, this beloved RTS. And it just, I cannot tell you how excited I am as a player. I am as a guy that has been able to work with this crew here, as well as the broader Classic team and the broader Blizzard team. So just, it is an unbelievable honor, and that's kind of how we got here.
And I know that I speak for everyone when I say that we're very grateful that you are doing that. So thank you very much.
Cheers.
Now, a rumor here and a few patches there. This year, there has been rumors about the Warcraft remaster coming out. But until now, we haven't had it confirmed. So has it been hard, Pete, to hide this information and to sit on it until the big BlizzCon announce?
Yeah, I mean, you want to share, especially with this game being live and we get so much input from the community, you want to admit that, yes, this patch is a precursor for something amazing that's coming, and the balance changes that we've been doing, and generally just getting back involved with the game. We want to incrementally release things so that there isn't a big patch at the end with a lot of problems. So there are those telltale signs that I think a lot of you folks gleaned, and especially people that are really into the community understood probably where we were headed. And it's frustrating when you're reading on the forums I just wish I could type a response to this and say, absolutely, it's coming, so hyped, see you soon. But you just kind of have to wait. Yeah.
And then you had that famous summer of 2017 interview with the cheeky smile, and we're working on other things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wore the Warcraft 3 shirt last year to BlizzCon.
Right.
As a less than subtle hint, which certain people were upset about.
I don't think I was that mad.
You're pretty mad.
Now, the first thing that springs out to everyone is that Warcraft 3, as a veteran Warcraft 3 player, I have the nostalgic glasses on. I look at that game and I think, the graphics, they have finally aged wonderfully, and nothing could possibly be improved. But actually, when you look at it, on the art side, you see things could be more 2018-like. And Brian, as a designer for Blizzard, and you've done work on World of Warcraft, you've done a lot of artistic work, you get this chance to go back to Warcraft 3 and to work on the art and to make it more current. What's that been like?
First, I hope you guys like the style we went with. Our original idea was to go in an actually more cartoony, stylized version for Warcraft Remastered, Reforged. And we did a lot of tests with characters. We really wanted to get the orc to feel like an orc. Of course, Warcraft orcs are noticeable if you're looking at the cute but deadly toys that we have. If you look at the Warcraft movie, the orc is an orc. So we really had a huge spectrum to work with. So after we worked with a little bit of style, a little cartoony, we noticed that a lot of games out there have that kind of similar style. A lot of games are doing that more cartoony look. And so we took a step back and we said, you know what really speaks Warcraft to us? And for me personally, the Mist of Pandaria cinematic with the orc and the human really nailed Warcraft to me. I was like, this is what I believe a orc looks like. This is what the humans look like, stylized, but still had that realistic textures, the funness to them. So we went back to the drawing board. We took these concepts as our base, and then we redid the orc until we got to a point where we really liked them.
This model is gorgeous.
Good job.
I understand that Warcraft 3 was Blizzard's first 3D game. Now you see that. Right?
Same engine.
Same engine.
Little change to, let's see, between there. But yeah, War 3 was our first 3D required game. And it started with graphics cards that could only draw one texture at a time. And so you can see that there has been a little bit of a change. Now we have shaders and compute shaders, and ray tracing is coming down the road. So yeah, we've given the artists a lot more to work with than we had back in 2002.
And Arthas has a neck now.
He does.
Yeah. Why
Always nice.
is Arthas so like 4 feet tall? And now he's like 9 feet tall.
Proportion.
Perspective.
Art.
Okay.
Art. That's the way they arted back in the day.
So you can do a lot more now with, the technology has caught up. Back then, I felt like the graphics were far ahead of their time, but time has caught up. Graphics, computer, internet, it's all caught up. So under the hood, you can do so much more now, I guess, these days.
And I think Jay is downplaying like the level of effort that's gone into this, and so is Brian. Like, what you're seeing here is a year's worth of work to be able to render the game this way. And I think one of the most powerful things is this will also translate to the editor, and we're going to give these tools to the community so you can make your own models that look this great for custom maps and things like that. Like, one of our big focuses and understandings is that the community, you guys, have done so much to keep this game vital, since our, absence for the past 13 years or so. And we want to give you the tools to keep the game healthy and be able to continue to, draw your own experiences. And this is a culmination of that effort. And these guys are amazing for making it possible.
And that's so good to hear.
Yeah.
Now here at Blizzcon, the Culling of Stratholme, the iconic mission where Arthas turns to darkness, it's playable here already, and it will be playable throughout the whole Blizzcon. And that's just one of the many missions of the campaign that has captured so many of our, depending on your age, high school lives, primary school lives. It's been a big part of all of our lives. And Matt, you've done a lot of work on the original Warcraft 3. You were a part of that process. And now you're getting a chance to reimagine some of these campaign missions, some of the maps, the balance. There's so much that you can do now on the design, and you're going back to this work from way back when. What's that been like?
It's been really exciting. 15 years ago, the way we built our missions and the way we designed. Since then, we've done a couple RTSs, and we've learned a lot of different things. All right, we have a lot of lessons we can apply coming back to Warcraft 3 Reforged. And one of the goals, you touched on it a little bit, Grubby, with the culling, is one of the things we want to do with our campaign is we want to level it up to what people know from the World of Warcraft, right? So we kind of look at Warcraft 3 as one of the origin stories of World of Warcraft, and there's a lot of characters introduced, and the World of Warcraft did such a great job of taking those characters and moving on. And looking back at the campaign right now, we see some areas that we know that we need to level up. We want the locations that you remember or know from World of Warcraft to kind of match what you see in Reforged, and we want to kind of go through some of the stories and just kind of really tie the two franchises together in a tighter way.
So World of Warcraft players that will be playing, for example, the Culling of Stratholme, they'll recognize the iconic entrance. Arthas and his band of warriors start at the south side of the battleground now, and they can navigate up in an area that is more lookalike to what World of Warcraft players are going to be used to, right?
Yeah, that's what we're hoping on. This IP is such a great, deep story here, and Warcraft 3 really just touched upon it, and the World of Warcraft kind of expanded upon that. So, this is really a good opportunity for us to come back after 15 years and, deliver a new experience in some ways, right? If you've played the game and you come back, you're going to see it through a different lens. If you've never played the game before, but you're familiar with the IP, you're going to recognize a lot of the locations. So it'll be a lot of fun going through this.
Let's also move to the topic of patches. This year, Warcraft 3 has been the original Warcraft 3 has already been receiving patches to update functionality for a 2018 system, widescreen support, lower ping for multiplayer. So these kind of things, we used to have these limitations in the engine and in the internet, and we had dial-up modems. That made sense then, but it may not necessarily make sense now.
For sure, and so we have been trying to roll out a lot of quality of life improvements for the people who are currently playing the game that we can't tell them about Reforged, but we can definitely hey, we can improve the patching system. We can take advantage of more memory. We've been, let's see.
Widescreen support.
Get rid of port forwarding.
Silence. Yeah, but we are definitely trying to see the things that people are the pain points. Like the lag was a problem, and we looked at the code and we're like, well, actually, some of these, the rationale for this doesn't matter anymore. 56K modems, okay, that's just not a thing anymore. So definitely, going back and reviewing the things that people are running into where you're stuck with limitations that we had to do originally. No point, let's get rid of those and make it better. And that's just, our plan is, continually improving the game as we go, as well as build the foundation for Reforged.
So when people are trying to launch multiplayer games with their friends and making custom games, are you saying they no longer need to go under the hood and open port 6112?
I will ask our network guys. They're in the audience, but I'm pretty sure. But I'm pretty sure they're working hard on this, and they're just not going to require us to install a lot of software or anything. It's going to be smooth and seamless.
Very cool. Very nice. A lot of quality of life improvements to the accessibility.
For sure.
Another thing that people are going to be very curious about is whether Warcraft 3 Reforged is going to join the family on the main Battle.net launcher. Because I've had some people that refer to the current Battle.net launcher as half a launcher or like a 0.5 launcher.
Sure.
Yeah, that's actually a really important reason to really be exploring this stuff. Like, again, with SCR, we were able to bring all of the millions of players of StarCraft players from the past 20 years back into the family. And with Warcraft 3, we're able to do that again. And it's not just the core Warcraft 3 players, but it's also the tens of millions of players that continue to engage through all of the different custom maps that have been created over the past 16 years. Like, I'm gonna double down that comment. I think Jay is underselling a little bit of the engineering effort and the art effort that goes into this, because at the end of the day, this is actually an evolution of Warcraft 3 as you know it. The engine itself is still rooted in the engine from 2001 and 2002. So the graphics that you see are actually being added on top of the gameplay engine, the input engine, and all the different bits that allow you to experience Warcraft, be it the campaign, the multiplayer maps, the custom maps that you've been able to play, and bring them forward into this sort of modern view that you see today. To do that means you have to account for all kinds of bad code that you wrote 16 years ago.
Wasn't just me.
And different paradigms.
Rob wrote some of it too.
Okay. Port 6112 for the win, dude. At the end of the day, like, all of this was like an effort to really heal up the community and bring everybody together. So when you talk about putting this stuff on the modern Battle.net, like, that's the vision. That's the reason. That's why we've got to do this stuff. There's one big blizzard. and the way in which we engage with that one big blizzard is through Battle.net. It's through our launcher. And to not have some of our games in that, it's just criminal. And I'm just happy as hell to be able to usher it back in.
Rob has a small amount of passion around this. Yeah. I think one cool point that didn't get brought up that was eye-opening for me, I didn't realize that WoW's engine was built upon War 3's engine. It was transitioned into WoW. And what we've done is take a lot of those learnings and what they did to beef that up and ported it back essentially into this engine. So it's come full circle in a really epic way. And James Doverspike, who's another graphics engineer who helped us out immensely, came from the WoW team, so he understood what we were trying to bolt in there and
well,
how to
even better,
expand
he
it.
could look at the code and go, oh, wait, this is all familiar, and it's so much simpler than it is in WoW right now. So he was able to bring over things much more easily and cleanly.
I'm pretty sure he was able to get that lighting in and the dynamic shadows that took you 3 months of tinkering. He did it in a week.
It's like 2 days.
2 days. I'm sorry.
Poor Jay. We love
A
you,
rough
Jay.
crowd, rough
We
crowd.
love you, Jay. We love you.
Are there any funny Easter eggs you guys discovered when going through the programming, of the old code?
There are comments that would not be. Those comments have to be removed and deleted. There was a lot of work. There was a lot of stress on the team. Not always as much love between programmers, artists, and designers as we like to have. So, yeah, all those comments have to go.
So, Rob, you were saying the engine underneath for the most.
Constraints. So in terms of additional sort of under the hood improvement.
How much is being revamped?
Yeah, so that's a question.
Those comments have to be removed and deleted.
How much is being revamped? Very much the same. But there's going to be a lot of things tying in on top of it, over it, underneath, in between. To what degree is that engine still there the same? How much is being revamped?
Yeah, so that's a question that Jay's going to be able to kind of dive into a little bit more detail. But one of the things that I think is just is particularly cool is all of the animations, the attack swings, and so forth. That all has to be accounted for because at the end of the day, the version of Warcraft 3 that players have had for the past 16 years, yeah, that just needs to continue to be able to be played with this new version because we don't want to break the community, right? We don't want to break the game, and we want to allow for players to just continue to coalesce together. That has some hangups, right? The fact that you cannot go hog wild with animations, be it death or what have you, means that you have to actually make it look as high fidelity as possible while at the same time adhering to some of those original time constraints. So in terms of additional sort of under the hood improvements, I don't know, Jay, what do you think?
Well, I mean, the graphics engine is actually getting completely rewritten, all right? But it will be compatible and still be able to read all the existing content. We call it SD for what's live right now, for standard definition. And the goal is to maintain perfect compatibility with that. So barring people using hacks or anything like that, the original game will play exactly as you expect. Hitboxes and everything will work. As you noticed, we're still working on getting the new HD assets to match and have full parity with what you expect. But the artists have a lot of freedom now to do things like, well, we used to be really constrained on memory, and animation was a problem. Now animation is a relatively small percentage of the time, so artists are creating just fun stand anims. So you'll have a stand anim where the orc or the grunt takes his axe and just scratches his back with it. Why? Because an artist thought it would be cool, and we look at it and we're like, oh my God, that's just amazing. Yes, that has to go in. And so lots of things that are not gameplay breaking, we can add a lot more personality to the game because we're able to take advantage of much better hardware than we used to have, and more memory and more processor cores. So the infrastructure at the base level is changing. The sort of thing that touches the user as far as the user interface and whatnot changes, but the core gameplay has to stay the same. We want to maintain that, and we want to not divide the community. It's really important that everybody is able to play together for us.
I don't remember you being able to zoom in on the sheep quite so much.
We tweaked the mouse wheel. If you're going to play the culling, make sure you spin the mouse wheel and just get in there and see how much detail Brian has put into the textures. It hurts me, but the triangle count and the texture sizes are a bit high now.
I think for the artists, the only thing that we are constrained by is because we are making this compatible SD can play with HD. We have to make sure that the animations, the way the attack works, if it hits at a certain point, that has to be exactly the same as the old one. We are kind of constrained just by the fact that this attack is only 20 frames long. The new attack can only be 20 frames long. We have a little bit more freedom with stands, and like he was saying, we can have more variety in there. So you won't see like 10 guys standing in a row doing the same animation at the same time. There'll be a lot more variety, a lot more realism, I guess, as far as your armies go.
Yeah, and part of the reason why that's, again, super important is all of these maps that have been created over really the past 15, 16 years, they just need to be able to be loaded up as a custom game and playable in Reforged.
With the new assets, for sure.
With new assets.
Yes, and if
Easy.
you're
Totally easy.
Totally.
Yeah, got this.
So let's get back a little bit as well to the design and the balance aspect of Warcraft 3. You've been able to do a passover, Matt, over some of
there's
the
a lot of changes I need to do, and so I
maps that are in competitive play. The competitive lifeblood of Warcraft 3 is still very much alive. There's a tournament happening later this month in China, and you're looking at these maps and these races, and they haven't been touched for a very long time. And then this year we've had a number of patches, and they've brought about a lot of changes. Most of them good. A few of them is like, that's going to happen, right? And so when you're going in on the units and hero balance, what is your overall philosophy? What are the main aims or wrongs you're trying to right, let's say?
The process was, coming back on to the Warcraft 3, one of the things we did is we went and talked to the communities in China. There's some of the larger map-making communities, and we talked to some of the professional players, even in Europe, some of the guys out there. And I started asking questions like, why are you picking this hero? Why are you not using these units? What maps do you like, right? So I gathered a lot of information. I did all my homework, and then I started opening up the maps myself, and I noticed, from when you look at the more recent RTSs we've done, you see for competitive play, each start location for the resourcing is spot on. But when I looked at the Warcraft 3 maps, some of the start locations, the town halls further away from the lumber, right? So right away, I just started noticing like there's some areas that if I were to do this today, there's a lot of changes I need to do. And so I started playing around with some of the maps and for people to understand if there's a difference, we put an LV for a ladder version on it. And that was like the first step. And the second step, we started looking at the heroes. Like there's a lot of stuff we wanted to balance, but we didn't want to do it all at the same time. So it was a bit of a plan to just approach the heroes and not necessarily go after like the more overpowered units that you hear from like the Blade Master and the Demon Hunter, things like that. But really what we wanted to do was bring up some of the other characters, right? The ones that the pro scene and the competitive scene are saying, we're never using this hero. And so we wanted to just kind of lift those up. And recently we did a big patch across all the races and the units. And as you said, there's some things that we've kind of missed a little bit. And so we want to have this dialogue. We want to have this conversation. So as we do things and maybe it's not quite the right spot, we want to proactively go and fix it. So this is going to be an ongoing thing all the way up to Reforge and hopefully even beyond. We'll continue to make sure that the game feels fresh.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And as a lot of Warcraft 3 purists, when you ask them what do you think about Warcraft 3, they're going to be like, that's the best game ever. It's perfect. But as I've come to realize, it's perfect sometimes despite its imperfection. Like, if you ask what is the best map ever in tournament play, like Twisted Meadows has produced some of the most legendary matches in tournament play, 1-hour matches, close matches, comeback matches. But when you look at the starting locations, sometimes someone has got the trees very close to his base so he can easily mine lumber, and sometimes it's very far away. You discovered that and you're like, hey, that doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
You maybe didn't know Twisted would be like so popular because there's such a big map pool, and in the end that cements itself as this main tournament map, and you've been making those changes, right, in the patches.
Yeah. Even in the maps that we've already touched at this point, I asked this when we get on the forums and we're talking with the community, like if there's additional maps or if there's things that we're actually missing and we're not putting our focus on, we want to continue to have this conversation with the community and really try to make sure we're hitting all the right notes, because ultimately we're up here, doing the Warcraft 3 Reforged, and we're doing it for the community. You guys have been so awesome for so long, and now it's really for us at this point to kind of give back to you and kind of build this game the way you guys want to have it done.
So I think that's one thing that really shines through as well. Certain changes have already been made. They tie in with Reforged. They were part of Reforged, even though you couldn't admit it yet. A lot more is going to happen over the coming times, but you're hungry for feedback, right?
Yes.
And we're going to have a feedback link later on at the conclusion of this panel, so make sure to burn that on your retina and check that out as well, because you're listening to these things. That's what you rely on, the community's ideas as well. It's one part of the puzzle, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, this is your second remaster, guys. StarCraft Remastered preceded Warcraft 3 Reforged. There must have been lessons to learn from, things you wanted to repeat, maybe traps you wanted to avoid, maybe tools that you could reuse in Warcraft 3. Talk us through that.
Sure. I think the first one was understanding that the community has not left the game. Lean into that knowledge, lean into the fact that 15 years of thoughts about how to make balance better or what the editor needs to be more powerful are like a perfect foundation and basis for our marching orders of what needs to be encapsulated in this. And we kind of learned that with SCR. And then some of our brilliant engineers who created these kind of core libraries where we don't have to keep reinventing the wheel when we're implementing a new feature or giving an overhaul to Matchmaker with the new MMR and ELO system that we developed for SCR. Like being able to port that into this game saves us a lot of time, which the benefit is you guys get the game sooner. So no complaints there, right? But it's those types of things. It's the fact that we grew as a team during SCR. Like we just know better how to function, and we've been better at partnering. Like we have these amazing partners throughout the globe that help us with this, who help us with the art and help us with expanding the editor and things like that. And learning how to be decentralized was another like huge mechanic to doing this more quickly and better. And a lot of those people are from the community. That's one of the best things. Like we have people we've hired or that we're partnering with that are of this community that never left, that never stopped making maps. And knowing to have that inside of your team, not just as you reach out, is really empowering. Helps you avoid staying off the rocks in a lot of ways.
That makes a lot of sense. It's cool to see that you're tying in with these long-time community members and bringing them into the fold. Now, you brought up the map editor. I think that's a great thing to talk about. Here we are at the culling of Stratholme, and we've got this new UI playable. It's more minimalistic, and we've got the map editor. What kind of tools can people expect to be using when it comes to the world editor and it comes to maybe customization?
I'll jump in right now.
That happens to use the world editor more than anybody else. So
Maybe not for everybody else, but so as an example right here, you're looking on the screen. This is what you remember from when we shipped the game, right? You have the very classic UI, and then we went with an experiment, and this is something we'd love to hear feedback. This is kind of the first time we're showing it to anybody, and to kind of get people's opinions and thoughts. So if you played the demo, if you have a chance and you want to vocalize your opinion towards this, we'd love to hear it. But where are you going with the editor? Like, what are some of the things that they could pull away? So this UI is actually now decoupled, right? So this will allow the map makers to actually start customizing their UI in a way that they were not able to do before. Because if you stripped away all that stuff before, the game was not even rendering underneath, right? And so now it actually is, and it gives the map maker at that point, as an example, one of the things that they can do.
So before under the UI, the game didn't exist, right? Like it wasn't
Basically.
being made.
Correct.
Yeah, that's one of those Easter eggs that Jay doesn't want to admit to.
Well, it's not an Easter egg. We needed the performance.
It turns out it was because of performance. So it was just a big old black screen underneath the UI.
And that's the same reason the top bar goes all the way across in the original game, because we could save, a few lines of fill rate.
Why render it when nearly 1/3 of the screen is UI, right?
Right.
Makes a lot of sense. So that's exciting news to hear for the map making community. And one thing they must also be wondering about is there is such a wealth of maps that have, as you said in your keynote, spawned new genres of games. Like that's how good the mechanics of Warcraft 3 are, to feel that when you create a new map, a new objective, a new style of game, that it feels good immediately. And some of these maps, they still exist. They're still being played now. They've got very fervent and enthusiastic communities around them. Can these map makers just import their map into the Reforged map editor? Will there be complications? Do you know that yet?
We test a fair number of them. We unfortunately can't test them all, but we are testing a fair number of them. And where we realize that we've done something wrong in terms of fixing bugs that the map counted on, we will try to come up with ways to keep those maps working. In other cases, if the map is really taking advantage of a bug that's a security risk or something that we cannot maintain, we are trying to reach out to those map makers to encourage them to fix it. And find out, hey, what are your needs? And we're adding new JAS commands so that if they're if things are clunky and they're doing it a way that's bad and insecure, here's the blessed way to do it. So we really do want to get as many of the existing maps to work day one.
And it's fair to say that if the assets that were used in the custom map were the stock assets, so to speak, they just kind of come along for the ride.
They do.
But if people have gone under the hood and maybe subbed out, certain assets for their own, that's a different story.
For example, if you swapped the texture on a unit and then you get the new model file, well, the new textures are PBR rendering, so physically based rendering, and they have normal maps and metal and all that that wasn't there in the original. So
it's not automatically going to have an equivalent.
Right, we can't take your old asset that you custom made and turn it into a new one.
But we're going to push Jay on that one and see if he can come up with a match.
Just like new assets for everything anyone ever brought in.
We'll also release the tools that we use, and we'll put out some guides so that artists out there that want to put in their own artwork. We'll show how we've done it. Where we're using the metalness and the roughness maps for the PBR to work. So you have those resources for you guys too, because you guys have done the most amount of work on the game.
But even the original assets, like in quote unquote SD, like they actually do get sort of a free upsampling when running. Yes.
Sort of. I mean, of course, the resolution is way higher on the screen. We'll get anti-aliasing will just be turned on whether you like it or not, and for your SD assets, so your edges will be better. You got to remember, the game originally supported things like 8-bit palletized textures. Okay, so now everything is being done in floating point intermediate precision, and let's see, the final results will be much better.
Okay, you just lost Brian.
Sorry, Brian. Anyway, yes, SD will also look much better.
Now, Warcraft 3 has some functionalities because, first of all, Warcraft 3 is coming to the main launcher, as I understand it, right? So the new BattleNet has certain functionalities that Warcraft 3 might not have, but in reverse, Warcraft 3 also has some functionalities that are not yet covered in any other Blizzard games as far as I know. So for example, the clan function, or having like profile information in your account. Automated tournaments. These things, some of these things that we've had so much fun with, they're now going to at least partially migrating to new alliances, an alliance with the new launcher, an alliance with some of the older StarCraft assets, which is bringing in new things like maybe the ELO system. But will these things be preserved? And if yes, is it as easy of a question as just preserving them, just taking them and then putting them in the Reforged box?
No.
Yes, that easy.
So
That's it? No.
It is so easy.
The answer is yes. Our goal is to have parity with things, let's see, that you're already used to. But no, it's not that easy because, of course, you have to take the existing code, understand it, and then bring it over to modern code with modern BattleNet and not break anything. And there will be some requests that we'll make of the BattleNet team for additional functionality. We'll of course be writing it ourselves. It's not an easy challenge, but it looks ideally for our players. It just worked. That's the goal.
So you endeavor to preserve, but it's not as simple of a case of just levying it over. It's like a complete rebuilding under the hood, something people may not see.
And in general, like, it is harder to take features away. We try not to. We try to do everything we can to preserve things. I know one of the questions from your own feed was, you know, what's going to happen with our existing accounts? Like, we're going to create functionality for you to merge, you know, your wins, your history that you have with this game over, and we're sensitive to that. Like, we don't want to lose those things ourselves. We as gamers are gatherers and achievers and want, you know, we don't want to lose our stuff. So we're doing everything we can from an engineering perspective, from a design perspective, to not lose those things, to not lose those artifacts of your achievements over time. And it's incredibly important to us to first get it right for the existing community, and then we want to do things to appeal to more people. Let's bring in some new blood. Let's have more bodies on the ladder. Let's get new custom game designers. Like, there's so much potential here, and we want to charge up as much of that potential energy as possible. But in so doing, we first need to make sure you guys, who I imagine in this room, are that core audience who's never left this game and who love it to death and don't want to see us change it so drastically that you don't recognize it anymore. I mean, that's our first mission, is to make sure you guys give us the thumbs up when it ships.
So, sounds great. And on
Quite.
So on that topic, the new graphics, I'm sure, are going to appeal a lot to players that might have been on the fence of trying out Warcraft 3 for a long time, or that are going to be coming back to Warcraft 3 after a long hiatus. But will existing players that maybe just can't get used to it still be able to have Reforged and have that current BattleNet functionality and so on and so on and so on, but scale back to either the old graphics or old audio or whatever?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
There's a command
Shall I
line
just
option.
only do yes and no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Cool.
I mean, that's another thing about that sensitivity of, like, hey, it already is the perfect game. I know you're one of them who really loves the way it looks. You even said to me when we first looked at this the other day, I think the original game looks fine. And I was like, I respect your opinion.
I used
think you're wrong.
I used a bigger adjective than fine, but
Perfect,
yes.
I think was the word.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that was also something we learned with SCR, right? Like, at one point with SCR, we kind of internally called it the Ultimate Option Edition, because we basically needed to make sure that, like, everything just existed from before, and then anything we added in, it just added to the grab bag of great, right?
Yeah.
And so we brought that same mentality over with Warcraft 3, where we just want to make sure that, like, this is your game, right? We may have made it, but it's your game. It's not our job to tell you guys, everybody in the audience, everybody watching, how to play your game. It's our job to make sure that you can play the game and that you can enjoy the game and that you have the ability to play it the way that you want to play it.
it's a great sentiment.
Yeah, your turn. Your turn for a bow. Bow.
We have time for a few community questions. After your very exciting keynote address, we opened the Twitter gates and some questions came in. So there are a few questions from some users here that I hope you guys will be able to answer.
Okay.
Question by Bogdanov. He said, say for instance, I would like to queue up with a friend as two players, but we want to join part of a bigger hall and go 4v4 random team queue up. So they're a unit of 2, but they'll be with 2 strangers and meet some other 4. Will that be a possibility?
Yes.
Possibility? Yes.
Possibility, yes.
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 Yeah. Possibility, yes. We definitely want to improve the join functionality. We're not sure exactly how that's going to work yet, but it is on our radar of, like, one of those things we definitely want to investigate and see what we can do to make that work.
Yeah, Jay's got your back, Mark. Yep.
We've got top persons.
Top men.
Top persons.
A question from Insomnia. He said, obviously there's a lot of work to be done on the current thing, but some people can't help but look towards the future. So is there any chance that you guys will create new side missions or new campaigns?
It's possible.
I mean, I think that's a two-part answer. One, like our focus right now is getting the existing game right, and one thing we haven't touched that much on during this panel, but the campaign itself, right? I think the culling is a prime example of part of the universe that has evolved greatly since Warcraft 3. Like the instance, the revisiting it, with Arthas in that moment has gotten a lot of definition between the book and between, World of Warcraft and comics, and there's so much more kind of there to those moments that we want to kind of backport that in and get parity so that when you walk into Stratholme, because we moved the starting location down to the southeast corner for the culling now, and you actually enter the way you do in WoW, and you have that grand entrance, and we want to reconstruct those moments in this game and have that parity with where things have gone. And that to me is kind of that mission of, are there new quests, are there new campaign? Like we're calling this Reforged because of that, because the desire is to kind of heal up how things have evolved and make it anew in a really compelling way. After we've shipped that and you guys love it and you demand more content, then we can talk about more content.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. I'm very excited about Warcraft 3 becoming more accessible to new players. It's going to be easier for them to find it on the launcher, play it without a hitch, in beautiful new graphics with new audio or whatever. We still have time for a very short answer from maybe two of you. I want to know what you guys are the most excited about in Reforged.
I think, Pete, you said it earlier best, so...
I know we've possibly dealt with that already.
I am one of the people in this crowd. This game means so much to me. To get to revisit it anew is the dream of a lifetime. But I think also those experiences need to be passed on to a new generation. And the opportunity to put this inside a BattleNet and put it, expose it to a new community should strengthen our current community, which is extremely exciting, but also, unlock it for a future generation. I want this game to still be talked about in 15 years in a meaningful way, the way it is right now. And that's our true mission here, is to pour our souls into it, get it to a state where it satisfies the need of the existing and appeals to the new.
I'm looking forward to it all just working, because there's a whole bunch of stuff, and there's 50,000 mods out there. Jay's got his work cut out, the whole engineering staff's got their work cut out, but at the end of the day, the level of fidelity from the art team, the work that's gone in from engineering, the creative vision, the design against it, it is a lot to package up and offer back in, right? I mean, you're talking about hundreds of hours of campaign material, and all of that is just got to seamlessly get sort of up-leveled into this grand view of a modern game. So I think when we're all said and done, it's going to be absolutely amazing, and I cannot wait for it.
But you have to. Because it's releasing somewhere in 2019. We all have to wait for it.
Sorry, man.
The future is full with possibilities regarding that. I'm very excited for that. What you guys are doing with with this game. Let's see.
What are you most excited for?
When people ask me, they're like, "How do I get started with Warcraft 3?" And I like to be able to tell them, you can find it on the launcher instead of open your ports and go to the registry and edit the FPS uncap. So there's definitely, it was ripe for accessibility for people. You can see that more so than ever almost. A lot of people say I don't even understand this game because I stream Warcraft 3 and they watch it and they're like, I don't even know what's going on, but it looks amazing, sounds amazing. I think it's cool. But in order for the community to get around the game again, to make new maps or to improve old maps, to start learning the game, helping one another to figure out how this game works and when you should expand and what upkeep is, these these elements I'm excited to teach new players, and I hope that people will help each other, as there are so many people in the Warcraft 3 community at home and in the audience that know so much about Warcraft that have blown me away. Like, I used to compete in Warcraft 3 and I thought I knew everything about the game. Not true. Like, every week someone is like, hey, did you know that this and this and this works this way? And I'm like, really? Let me test that. And it does. So there's a lot of avid fans about the game, and I'm excited about that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've given us much to look forward to. Our time here is dwindling. Our panel is going to conclude. Thank you guys here at home so much for watching. Thank you here at BlizzCon for watching. The lifeblood of Warcraft 3 is bright, and so is the future. They're hungry for your feedback. If you click that button many times, we can see where people can leave their feedback. I think it's somewhere on the slide, right?
Oh. Uh-oh. That's an Easter egg.
Yeah. I think it's after.
Oh no.
Can you just
We're too late.
No, it's at the end.
These people have all been infected. They may look fine now, but it's just a matter of time before they turn into the undead. This entire city must be purged.
What? How can you even consider that? There's got to be some other way.
Damn it, Uther. As your future king, I order you to purge this city. Jaina?
I'm sorry, Arthas. I can't watch you do this.
There you go. We got to it. So, as Grubby's been talking about, we really want to hear from you guys. Now that, the conversation is official and Reforged is announced, please go here. Let us know what you think of the demo. Like, we've done a lot to evolve Stratholme. Like, that's the future of where we want to take the campaign. So let us know if that's resonating with you when you go and you play it. Let us know if the new UI is hitting the marks that you want and what else you're hoping for. Yeah.
Members of the panel, thank you so much for your thoughts and your joining us here. People at BlizzCon, people at home, thank you for everything. Enjoy Warcraft 3 and enjoy BlizzCon.
Woo!